Duckman is one of the most underrated and ahead of his time cartoons of the 90s. This show, that was aimed purely at adults, satirized American society in a no-holds-barred manner 3 years before South Park. And the first 2 seasons of the show are some of the most well-written adult animation I've ever seen. It's almost fitting that the only game spawned from such a woefully underappreciated title happens to be the rarest point-and-click adventure game. Way more rare than Neverhood. If it wasn't for Moby Games' cover art scan, I wouldn't even believe that English copies of the game exist, since I've only ever seen German copies being sold online. As if being obscure wasn't enough, this game is known by 2 different names depending on which site you use. Wikipedia calls it The Graphic Adventures of a Private Duck, and other sites call it The Legend of the Fall. But collector value aside, is it any good? It was released in 1997, the same year the show ended after a lackluster final season. The game starts from a health spa located in Beverly Hills, where Duckman presumably took permanent residence after the show ended. However, as he lounges in a jacuzzi surrounded by women, he finds out that he was replaced from the show by a new Duckman that's better than him in every possible way. His family doesn't miss him, which shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone who's watched the show.
Duckman's in there with his father. Perhaps he'd come out if he was asked to by his loved ones.
Unfortunately, there's no one here but his family.
Dad, please come out.
Tell him you love him.
Dad, our active distaste for you is sometimes mitigated by pity.
May I say something?
Certainly, Ajax.
Dot, where did you leave the toilet paper?
In the roller thing next to the toilet!
Thanks, Dot.
However, there's something fishy about this new Duckman, and it's the player's mission to find out what. The story isn't anything special, but it doesn't need to be in a humorous adventure game, as long as the jokes deliver. Sadly, the writing and wit does not match the height of the first 2 seasons, which is evident by the overly verbose style where jokes often go nowhere. This is symptomatic of many games that try to copy LucasArts games. Even though some jokes fall flat, the game is still adequately funny. There's one ingenious puzzle where you have to annoy a Chinese man using fortune cookie quotes.
It's a bunch of fortunes. Chinese in nature. I got you this time, Tubby. Crank-case. Ling Shong.
I see.
Gok Heck.
Never have I been so insulted.
The general problem with the game's style is that the text drags down the pace of spoken dialogue, so there's an awkward pause between the lines, and the game's attempts at replicating the rapid-fire delivery of jokes seen in the show just doesn't work. Graphically, the game is mediocre. The backgrounds don't have any interesting designs, but they're pleasant enough to look at, and there are some animated effects. Of course, it can't match the quality of contemporary big-budget titles like Monkey Island 3, but I still prefer this game's visual style over many modern 3D and pixel art adventure games. Even though the game fails to encapture the unique art style and the nihilistic undertones of the cartoon, it still does a good job of transforming its source material into an interactive format. The kind of amateurish art style and bright color palette that it uses reminds me of other Western licensed games of the time. I've read that the game uses the same engine as Beavis and Butthead in Virtual Stupidity. The audio is also satisfactory. Although the soundtrack consists of MIDI elevator music, that fits the style. Voice acting features almost all the original cast, Tim Curry included.
What did I ever do to deserve treatment like this?
We're glad you asked. Let's see. We can break it down and give it to you by categories, such as missed birthdays and holidays.
Or we can show you how your combined gambling losses and the money you've wasted at strip clubs could have built a sewage treatment facility for an impoverished third world country.
And we'd have to get out the projector, but we do have a chart that clearly shows that you've only actually spent a total of 32 hours and 15 minutes with us since we've been born.
All right, enough already. I get the point. I guess the selective memory twins here don't remember the pony I got them for their birthday.
It wasn't a pony. It was a donkey. And we had to give it back after that exotic dancer got out of jail.
Kinda weird, isn't it?
Kinda weird? You're in the bestiality business, dude.
Hey, fucko. We like to call it interspecies erotica.
The only glaring omission is Duckman himself, who was voice acted by Jason Alexander of Seinfeld fame. Even though the new voice actor tries his hardest to imitate the frantic style of Jason, he just doesn't bring the character to life the same way he did. Overall, it's a very generic and mediocre late 90s adventure game, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's good for a licensed game, but not really strong enough on its own merit to recommend to those who aren't fans of Duckman, or who haven't played through all the classic comedy adventure games already.